A long, long time ago, in a faraway land called Persia, there was a powerful king named Xerxes. He ruled over a huge kingdom that stretched from India all the way to Africa. He lived in a glittering palace filled with gold and jewels, marble floors, and tall shining pillars. King Xerxes loved to show everyone how rich and mighty he was. One year, he threw a giant party that lasted for 6 whole months. People came from all over the kingdom, princes, soldiers, and leaders. There was music, dancing, and delicious food everywhere. When the big celebration was almost over, the king held another feast for everyone in the city. At the same time, the king's wife, Queen Vashti, was having her own party for the women of the palace. On the last day of the feast, King Xerxes decided he wanted to show off his beautiful queen. He sent his servants to bring her before his guests. But Queen Vashti didn't want to go. When the king heard her answer, he was very angry. His advisors said you must choose a new queen. So, sadly, Queen Vashti was sent away, and King Xerxes began to look for another queen. In the city of Susa, there lived a kind and gentle girl named Esther. She was a Jewish girl whose cousin Mordecai took care of her. Esther was not only very beautiful, she was also wise, humble, and kind. One day, the king's messengers came gathering all the young women to bring to the palace. Mordecai looked at Esther and said softly, "Esther, go, but remember, don't tell anyone that you are Jewish. Keep it a secret for now." Leaving the only home she had ever known was scary. Esther's heart pounded as she said goodbye to Mordecai. But as she joined the other women on the journey to the palace, she stood tall. She took a deep breath, remembering her face and trusting that there was a reason for this pass. With quiet courage in her eyes, she walked through the palace gates, ready for the unknown future.
At the palace, Esther met Haggai, the king's helper who cared for all the young women. He quickly noticed that Esther was special. She didn't brag or complain like some of the others. She was gentle and polite. Haggai liked her very much and gave her the best food, the prettiest clothes, and a special place to stay. For an entire year, the young women were prepared to meet the king. They learned manners, wore perfumes, and dressed in fine clothes. Finally, it was Esther's turn to meet King Xerxes. She didn't ask for fancy jewels or expensive dresses. She just trusted God and followed Haggai's advice. When she came before the king, his eyes lit up. He saw something in Esther that no one else had: a kind heart, a wise spirit, and a quiet beauty. King Xerxes smiled and said, this will be my queen." He placed a golden crown on her head and threw a feast in her honor. Everyone cheered and the palace was filled with joy. Esther, the humble girl from a small home, had become queen of Persia. While Esther lived in the palace, Mordecai still worked near the king's gate. He missed Esther, but he often sent messages to see how she was doing. One day, Mordecai overheard 2 of the king's guards whispering angrily. They were planning to hurt the king. Mordecai quickly sent word to Esther. Esther told the king, giving credit to Mordecai, and the 2 guards were caught and punished. The king wrote down Mordecai's good deed in his royal book, though Mordecai didn't receive a reward just yet. Soon, a proud man named Haman became the king's top official. He loved power and wanted everyone to bow down to him wherever he went. But one man refused, Mordecai. He would bow only to God. Haman was furious. When he found out that Mordecai was Jewish, he came up with a wicked plan. He went to the king and said, "There is a group of people in your kingdom who don't obey your laws. It would be better if they were gone." The king, not realizing the truth, gave Haman his royal ring to make a decree. So Haman sent letters all across the land, ordering that on a certain day, all the Jews should be destroyed. The date was chosen by casting lots, or dice, and that day was called Purim. When Mordecai heard the decree, he tore his clothes, put on rough sackcloth, and wept loudly in the streets. Esther heard about it and sent a servant to ask what was wrong. Mordecai told her everything, about Haman's plan and the danger to all the Jews. Then he sent her a message that said, "You must go to the king and beg for your people's lives." Esther was frightened. "Everyone knows," she said, "that anyone who goes to the king without being called can be put to death, unless he raises his golden scepter. I haven't been called in 30 days. Mordecai answered, "Don't think that you'll escape because you live in the palace. If you keep quiet, God will send help another way, but you and your family will perish. And who knows, maybe you were made queen for such a time as this." Esther thought and prayed. Then she sent her brave reply, "Go and tell all the Jews to fast and pray for me for 3 days. I and my maids will do the same. Then I will go to the king, even if it means I die."
After 3 days, Esther put on her royal robes and walked slowly into the king's hall. Her heart beat fast. Would he be angry? When King Xerxes saw her, he smiled. He held out his golden scepter, and Esther touched it, bowing low. "What is it, my queen?" he asked kindly. "What do you want? Even up to half my kingdom. It will be given to you." Esther said softly, "If it pleases the king, please come today to a banquet I have prepared for you, and bring Haman with you." The king agreed. That day, the king and Haman dined with Esther. The king asked again, "What is your request, my queen? Come again tomorrow to another banquet, and then I will tell you." Haman left the banquet feeling proud. "The queen invited only me," he bragged. But when he saw Mordecai still sitting at the gate, not bowing, his joy turned to fury. He rushed home and told his wife, Zeresh, everything. She said, "Build a tall gallows and ask the king to hang Mordecai on it. Then you can enjoy the queen's banquet." Haman thought that was a wonderful idea. He ordered the gallows to be built that very night. That same night, the king couldn't sleep. He called for the royal records to be read aloud to him. As he listened, he heard the story of Mordecai, saving his life from the guards who planned to harm him. The king sat up. What reward did Mordecai receive for this? The servant answered, "Nothing, my lord." Just then, Haman came into the court, planning to ask permission to hang Mordecai. Before Haman could speak, the king said, "Haman, what should be done for the man the king wants to honor?" Haman smiled proudly. He thought the king meant him, so he said, "Let him wear the king's royal robe, ride the king's horse, and be led through the city by a nobleman, shouting, 'This is what is done for the man the king delights to honor.'" The king said, "Wonderful! Go at once and do everything you have said." From Mordecai the Jew, Haman's smile disappeared, but he had to obey. He dressed Mordecai in the royal robes, led him through the streets, and shouted the words he had spoken himself. What a humiliation! The next day came, and it was time for Esther's second banquet. The king and Haman sat together, enjoying the feast. The king asked again, "Queen Esther, what is your request? Ask anything. It will be granted." Esther took a deep breath. Her voice trembled slightly, but she spoke with courage. "My king, if I have found favor with you, please spare my life and the lives of my people, for we are to be destroyed, killed, and wiped out." The king's eyes widened. Who would dare do such a thing? Begging for mercy. When the king came back and saw Haman close to the queen, he shouted, "Will he even attack the queen in my own palace?" One of the servants said, "There is a gallows at Haman's house, 75 feet high, built for Mordecai." The king commanded, "Hang him on it." And so, Haman was hanged on the very gallows he had built for Mordecai. After that, the king gave Haman's estate to Esther and placed his royal ring on Mordecai's hand. Esther and Mordecai wrote a new decree allowing the Jews to protect themselves. When the appointed day came, the Jews were victorious. Their enemies were defeated, and there was great rejoicing throughout the land. From that time on, the Jews celebrated a joyful holiday called Purim. remembering how God had turned their sorrow into gladness. Esther continued to live in the palace, helping the king and her people. Mordecai became a great leader and was honored by everyone. And every year, children and families remembered her story. The story of the young girl who trusted God and found the courage to speak up. Perhaps you were made queen for such a time as this. The story of Queen Esther teaches us God can use anyone, even someone small or scared, to do great things. Courage means doing what's right, even when it's hard. And when we trust God, He can turn even the darkest times into hope and joy.